Last year, for the first time so far in my career, I went part-time. And for me, it wasn't about escaping medicine, but it was about staying in it. And I'll go through some of the pros or the positive things that came from my year of part-time. And if you're interested in maybe some of the cons, I've done a video on that, which I'll link somewhere here. So number one, work became enjoyable again. This one genuinely surprised me because it wasn't like I didn't like my job, but I don't think I realized how stressed I was and how run down and fatigued and burnt out and even suffering from a bit of compassion fatigue until I wasn't feeling those things anymore, which is what going part-time helped me with. And when I had some energy and I wasn't running on empty throughout all my shifts kind of emotionally and physically, I found what it really was to enjoy being at work again. And I could kind of embrace the chaos that was working in a hospital in medicine. And one thing that really comes to mind is I was doing a medical lead sort of supervising in charge shift in an evening in the hospital. And I came to realize that we just didn't have a specialties reg, and that's the registrar or the trainee doctor that covers the subspecialties, neurology, endocrinology, gastroenterology. So, a few patients, and there was a problem with rostering. There wasn't one that night and I had to cover them, which was fine. But there would have been a time where that just would have been the worst thing that could have possibly happened. I would have been so stressed. I would have felt so overwhelmed. I would have just felt really resentful of the work I had to do. Whereas when I was at that place where I was a little bit more energized and less kind of close to burnout, it was sort of funny and fun, and I kind of reveled in the chaos and the busyness of it. The other positive that I found was that by stepping off the treadmill, the conveyor belt, the hamster wheel of training, it gave me a little bit more perspective on what I really want out of this career and what really matters to me. And it was partly stepping back and doing a little bit less work, but it was also partly by virtue of doing less work, I had more time for the other things in my life and really nourishing those relationships and hobbies and things that really made me me. Going part-time gave me the ability to kind of zoom out and get some perspective on what I wanted from life. The third benefit I found from going part-time was the huge positive impact it had on my health. Within a few months of going part-time, I could see on my sleep record on my phone that the time I was asleep overnight increased on average by 40 minutes, which is pretty significant. Imagine if you got an extra 40 minutes of sleep each night. I'm sure it would make a significant difference in your energy throughout the day, and I definitely felt that. Also, looking at the health metrics on my phone, my step count went up a couple of thousand. My HRV improved. I was able to go to the gym more. I was going to the sauna at the gym. I was going to walking group every Wednesday, which I'd never been able to regularly do something like that throughout my career to date. And I also had more time to prep healthier meals. And that's probably the thing that I've noticed the most when I've gone back to full-time is some of those health-focused actions or those health-related positives have deteriorated a little bit again. And I think that's sort of evidence as to why we do get burnt out and we do get really tired, because those are the things that kind of bit by bit melt away and become less of a focus, or you have less bandwidth to deal with and less time. The fourth benefit was the positive impact it had on my relationships. And that's my relationship with my husband, my friends, my family. I felt like I had so much more time to really nurture all those different relationships and be a better partner or member of those groups. When I had a little bit less of that pressure from all the shift work, my husband and I, for example, were able to start going for beach walks with the dogs every Friday. And little things like that, I'm trying to carry them over when I go back into full-time because they were so beneficial and lovely. I also just in general, maybe I was less tired, I was less stressed, I had a little bit more perspective, but I was less irritable in general. I felt like my patience was so much better. I wouldn't get annoyed over things that maybe would have annoyed me. And I noticed, again, going back to full-time, some of those little habits or instinctive reactions to things were creeping back again. And I think it's just one of the other benefits of going part-time is knowing maybe or being reminded what's normal and who I am. I'm not irritable. I'm not a grouchy person. I don't get annoyed about XYZ, whatever. That's just a symptom of me feeling fatigued and a bit tired. And I think, knowing yourself better better is so important, isn't it? And that's just another thing that my year part-time gave me. And finally, most importantly, it made my career feel sustainable. I was only 6 or so years into this long career, and I felt completely despondent at the fact that one way or another it was going to continue like this forever. And I know the hours arguably get better when you're a consultant, but it's still a huge responsibility. And the pressure and the responsibility increases with each step up that you take in the hierarchy of medicine. It's a long game. I started med school in 2013, and I probably won't be a consultant in my first specialty until 2030. And I'm not even doing a PhD or anything super fancy. Just knowing that I can take periods in my career at a slightly slower pace when I need to, and that I don't have to white knuckle it the whole way through is a massive relief. And the mindset shift of kind of push through, get through, tick off the next requirement, shifting from that to pace yourself, you're in this for the long haul, has been one of the most important things that I learned through the whole process. So, some stats to back up my assertions that working full-time as a doctor is really hard work. A 2023 BMJ Open study found that junior doctors working over 50 hours a week were 3 times more likely to report poor mental health than those working fewer than that. Excessive hours are also linked to increased medical errors and also early career exits. Doctors with better work-life balance report higher job satisfaction, lower burnout, and greater intent to stay in the profession. And that's based on data from the Medical Training Survey 2023. So the research backs up what I feel like I instinctively knew. Taking care of yourself isn't a sign of weakness. It's how you stay in the game. Going part-time didn't mean that I was stepping back. It meant that I was stepping into a version of a career that was sustainable for me. It helped me show up better for myself, my family, my friends, and my patients. Now I am back to working full-time, and so far it feels fine. I feel like I've been able to carry over some of the lessons and some of the habits that I built during my year of part-time, but I think even the knowledge that I can go part-time and it is possible to do when I need to, and that I can take things at a slower pace, and that that's an option, just the psychology of that has made me feel better. So if you're thinking about going part-time, just know it's a valid choice, and you don't need a research project or a PhD or anything to make it a valid choice. Just needing to rest, just needing to focus on yourself, your family, that's enough. Let me know in the comments if you've made the switch to part-time or if it's something that you're thinking about. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this resonated with you, hit the like, subscribe for more videos about life in medicine and healthcare. Bye.